In the month of January, we picked up 805 subscribers. We currently sit at 7,695, and after the month of January, although it is a shorter month, the goal is to get to 8,700 subscribers, which is just about 1,000 in this month. We go live for almost every Miami Heat game doing watch parties. We'll also have you covered on the latest trade rumors up to the deadline this Thursday, and we'll have you covered on the Miami Heat throughout the rest of the season into the offseason. So hit that sub button, and let's pick up a rack in the month of February. All right, I am Nic Rohloff of the Heat Report, and on today's show, we are going to look at 5 NBA players that the Heat could target before that February 8th NBA trade deadline, where once it goes past 3 p.m. Eastern Time, there are no more trades you can make this season. And I got 5 guys that the Heat and Pat Riley could take a look at to upgrade this roster. I think it's first, though, to be conscious and aware of what the biggest need for Miami is. In my eyes, it is front court versatility. What do I mean by that? Front court versatility. I mean the ability to play next to Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. I also mean the ability to defend and not be a defensive liability on the floor alongside Jimmy and Bam, because we can't get the best of both worlds right now. When you think about who plays next to Jimmy and Bam in the front court, it's Haywood Highsmith, who he's a fine defender but struggles with his shooting at times. It's Kevin Love, who can space the floor and be good offensively, but can't really defend that well. It's Jaime Jaquez Jr., who is still super, super young, and I'm unsure of his ability to really make a massive impact for Miami when it comes to April and May. So that's what I'm looking at, the ability to impact the game offensively and defensively for Miami when playing alongside Jimmy and Bam. So I'm basically looking for a closing or starting power forward. We'll start with P.J. Washington, who the Heat have been linked to in the past. And I really like P.J.'s game. I've always thought about him as someone who is really good and someone who can be next to Bam in the front court because he can space the floor offensively, can grab some boards, and maybe play a little bit of defense. But the only issue is that he is a Charlotte Hornet, and I don't know if I want to go back to that well. I think it is important to note that his contract is not expiring. It's 3 years, $46.5 million. So if you were to trade for P.J. Washington, who's making just over $15 million a season, well, you might have to include Duncan Robinson in that deal, who's making about $18 million. I don't know who you can add to Caleb Martin's $6 million to get an equal PJ's $15 a season. But you see the numbers on screen. He can be a scorer when called upon. Not the most efficient guy, but we did just watch him score 40 points in one NBA game a week and a half ago. The three-point shooting numbers is a little bit down for PJ, but he has expressed the ability to knock them down at an efficient clip in the past, and he is a really good corner three-point shooter, where if Jimmy gets hit on that baseline, could swing it to PJ. Or if Bam gets caught in the short roll and he's immediately met by a couple guys compacting inside that painted area, he can kick it out to Washington for a catch-and-shoot triple. And unlike Haywood Highsmith, he is very confident in his ability to shoot, and Haywood at times will hesitate, maybe not shoot it right away, pump fake and let the defender close out. PJ will absolutely let that fly and shoot with no hesitation. The only concern I have and doubt I have with a potential P.J. Washington deal is that, well, they'd have to go back to Charlotte to make another trade. And if Pat Riley really wanted to add Washington to this Heat roster, well, you would have imagined he would have at least talked about it, including him with the Terry Rozier deal when Kyle Lowry was shipped to Charlotte. We have 4 more names to get to, but I want to know who you think Miami should trade for. We've talked a lot about Dorian Finney-Smith. We have some new names on this list today. Who is someone you want Miami to trade for? Drop a name for me down in the comment section. Speaking of Dorian Finney-Smith, he is next on my Heat trade targets list, and it's really hard to imagine a better fit in the NBA than Dorian Finney-Smith. We talked about him in depth on yesterday's episode. We've talked about him on multiple episodes, but this guy is someone who can be the best defender on the floor for any given team. It just wouldn't be the best defender on the floor for Miami because of how good Bam Adebayo is. But he is one of the best wing defenders in the entire NBA. I call him an elite elite defender. 2 elites for you because he can guard 1 through 5. I've said 2 through 5 in the past, but I truly believe if he got switched on to a guard on a possession, he could hold his own. I've read off statistics of how he played against the Clippers, who we just played last night in a bad loss, how he defended Kawhi Leonard and Paul George so effectively, holding them to 1 of 9 shooting. Yeah, this guy can guard. And I've also talked about his ability to play a P.J. Tucker-esque role when defending people bigger than him if you had to switch him on to a center or play him at a small ball center at a spot moment because of how strong he is and how good he is with his base. He can really give a nudge to opposing big men to throw them off their spot, potentially as they try to bring the ball up or turn around for a hook. Dorian Finney-Smith can do it all on the defensive level. And if you are dealing with Brooklyn on a potential trade, I wonder if you can squeeze Dennis Smith Jr. out of them as well. I am a big fan of DSJ's game. If you were with us in the offseason before this year began, I was always labeling out how Dennis Smith Jr. should have been someone Miami signed to be the backup point guard, even before the Damian Lillard saga really took off. Like, I didn't care if Dame was going to be our point guard or Kyle Lowry was going to be our PG. I wanted DSJ to be the backup because of how athletic he is and how well he plays defensively. He's averaging 7 a game this year, 1.2 steals and 4 assists. He struggles with his outside shooting, but if you were able to get Dorian Finney-Smith, could you get Dennis Smith Jr. to fortify some point-of-attack defense? That would be very, very intriguing in my opinion. 3 names to get to left in the video, but I do want to show some love to our sponsor on the show. They returned. That is Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's daily fantasy made easy. All you got to do is pick 2 to 6 player stat projections, pick more than or less than, and you can watch the winnings roll in, potentially up to 25 times your money. We got the big game coming up this Sunday. You know I'm playing this upcoming weekend. Patrick Mahomes, I'll take the freebie they're giving you. You should take advantage of it too. At more than half a passing yards, more than Isaiah Pacheco rushing plus receiving touchdowns. I think he finds pay dirt. I'll take the less than on Deebo Samuel receiving yards because I think it's a Christian McCaffrey game. I'll take the more than on his receiving yards. You could join me, rapper Meek Mill, comedian Andrew Schultz, and plenty of others at Prize Picks. Make watching sports so more fun at prizepicks.com/CLNS. They're giving you a first deposit match up to $100. That link is in the comments and description of today's video. Take advantage right now. An intriguing name we haven't talked about on prior videos. How about Obi Toppin, the former Dayton Flyer from the A-10 and lottery pick for the New York Knicks? His first season in Indiana, in my opinion, has actually gone pretty well. But to me, it's fascinating that his minutes aren't that high. He's actually only playing just about 23, 24 minutes a night. And ever since they acquired Pascal Siakam, his minutes have taken a dip, and his usage rate and volume has also taken a little bit of a dip. But he's averaging double-digit points per game. He's having a really efficient season, shooting 56% from the field and 39% from 3 on 3.2 attempts. So it's not like he's shooting 39% on 1 or 2 attempts. He's getting up 3 a game, so he's shooting about 1.4, 1.3 to that 3.2 number on a specific game-to-game basis. The only thing with Obi Toppin that holds me back a little bit is that he is a restricted free agent in 2024, so he would potentially only be a rental. And if you were looking into that potential deal of moving off Caleb Martin for another forward to help this Heat roster, well, you're moving on from Caleb because you probably wouldn't be able to retain him in this offseason. It's likely the same scenario for Obi Toppin, but he's 6'9", he's got bunnies, he can play that power forward position. You get him bought in to that Miami Heat system, playing good defense. He could use that athleticism and shooting prowess to really upgrade this roster, and he's probably a cheap trade target as well. But I want you to make the call for me. As we are talking about trade targets to help fortify this Miami Heat roster, can this team, if the Heat and Pat Riley don't make a deal, make a run in the playoffs with this current roster as it is constructed without another trade? Type Y if you think they can. Type N if you think they can't. Ooh, it is getting dicey to compete with those top teams in the Eastern Conference, I'll tell you what. All right, we'll look at a familiar face at number 4, and that is P.J. Tucker from the Los Angeles Clippers, who has been really relegated to nothing over in the LAC. We just played the Clippers, and you saw P.J. Tucker get absolutely 0 minutes, and he is just someone who's sitting on the bench as a veteran presence. And there's a report that came out today that P.J. Tucker is looking to be traded, but that's not really any new information. It's been known that he doesn't want to be in LA anymore because, well, he's not playing anymore. I don't think the Heat should trade for PJ Tucker, but I put him on this list to kind of make a note that even if the Heat do not make a move before that deadline on Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, I do expect Miami to be at least active to a certain degree in the buyout market, and I think PJ Tucker could be my top target in the buyout market just because of his experience in the 305 with that year in 2021, his relationship with Spo, Bam, Jimmy. I think he could give you good minutes as a defensive front court guy off the bench. Maybe a little bit more minutes from Haywood Highsmith being taken. I like PJ Tucker's ability. He is my top target and kind of honestly just a vibes guy on the bench to be potentially even a Udonis Haslem role where he doesn't get a lot of playing time but knows the Heat culture and can be that veteran leader in the locker room. All right, last name we'll talk about on today's video is another old friend of ours, and that is Kelly Olynyk. A little Kelly O action from Utah. He's also got 1 year left on his deal. I believe it's around $13 million. He is also a sneaky buyout target and candidate, but I don't really know if he will be bought out because of what he can bring to the table for a team in a trade. I mean, he's not having the most crazy offensive year for Kelly Olynyk standards, but what stands out to me is his efficiency. He's shooting 56% from the field and 43% from beyond the arc. And when Kelly Olynyk spent time in Miami playing with Jimmy Butler and Bam, and even prior regimes as well, I was not the biggest Kelly O guy. I'll be honest. I didn't like the way he gave up so many easy offensive rebounds. I also didn't like the way he defended. But I might have traded Kelly a little too harshly because when you look at this Miami Heat team and what they could use right now, well, it's Kelly Olynyk's size and spacing ability at that power forward spot. And also, Olynyk has been a little bit of a better playmaker as well. When he's drawing defenders, he's not afraid to dish it and find an open guy. He's averaging 4.3 assists per game this year. Olynyk maybe slotting in as that starting power forward. Yes, a starter next to Jimmy and Bam. Well, it could bode well. It'll help them on the defensive glass. It'll help them switch between Bam and Kelly O inside, and it will also provide more shooting and more spacing on the offensive end as Miami has continued to struggle scoring as they did not eclipse 100 points once again last night against the Los Angeles Clippers. Those are my 5 targets for the Miami Heat as the deadline is just 3 days away. Make sure you are subscribed. I want to remind everyone the goal is to get to 8,700 subscribers by the end of February, leading into that March push for the playoffs. Hit that sub button and join us for the rest of the season. You won't want to miss it. The Miami Heat, there's always something going on.